Welcome back to another edition of Sip the Tally podcast, and it's actually a special edition. This is the first time we've done it. I'm here with my draft co-host ChrisJustJoking, who normally joins us Mondays for the roundup. He's a member of the Deep Cover podcast who normally do their thing on Wednesday, and they have a floating thing that's kind of hit and miss on such and such. But Chris has done an amazing job with the draft content, and I ain't want to let that knowledge just sit there being unused. So I asked them to come on today so we can talk a little O-line stuff. And what really kind of spurred this on was Chris has already put out a document kind of talking O-line. And before we get into it, Chris, kind of let everybody know what you got in that document and where they can find it before we get into what we got.
Yeah, so first off, appreciate you having me, Coach. Always a pleasure to jump on here. And basically, I get started on draft stuff early. And in December, I just wanted to have, basically my notes. So these are just like preliminary looks at players. So, from live games, from what I could get on YouTube and what I could get from all 22, I kind of compile my list, and that's how I get who I'm gonna watch and how I view certain players. So what I did, because I usually just make this list anyway, so I just published it. It's on a Deep Cover blog. It's on my pinned tweet at ChrisJustJoking, and it's kind of just like a quick little guide on just what these players bring to you. It's not an in-depth look at it. It's not like a full scouting report on these guys. It's just little bullet points of what I saw from these guys' game.
All right, and so what we're gonna do today is we got let me count them up so I can give you an accurate number. We have one. Make sure my math right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 guys that we're gonna talk about, and it's kind of the 9 top guys. And the plan here is to go through these 9 guys and talk about them. Chris gonna tell you what he like about them or don't like. I'm gonna tell you what I like or don't like, and see how that kind of meshes, and even see if that fits what Baltimore may like or what may need. And then we're gonna kind of hit it that way. And then later on, we may double back with some guys that are maybe not as highly rated as these guys, because we can only pick one. And if we don't go with O-line in the first round, we definitely gonna need to hit it in the second or third. And so we'll make this a topic where me and him can kind of talk about different guys and may even hit different positions, because running back is a position I think of need, especially after listening to the Costa today. Receiver may still be a position of need. We don't know what's going to go on there. So we'll just hit our draft content, and we'll talk about it. We'll bounce ideas back and forth. And instead of just having this conversation on Twitter or having it in DMs, we'll just have it here for everybody else to throw their 2 cents in, and hopefully you enjoy that content. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'll have a picture of the guy we're talking about at the time. And you guys can put what you think about the guy and if he fits what we need while we have our joint discussion on him, and we'll go from there. All right, you ready to roll?
Let's do it.
All right, let me add the pictures to the screen. First guy up, and this is a guy that a lot of people told me to go look at, and I had a hard time finding tape on him. So I got a little bit of tape on him, and this is Cooper Baby from Kansas State. And I'll let you go first. What you think about Cooper?
So Cooper, he's a guy that I've been watching since last year. He was actually my OG1 last year. I thought he was coming out, and I thought he was going to be the clear-cut OG1. He decided to go back to school, and his tape from last year impressed me. I mean, obviously, if he's OG1, obviously he has some impressive tape.
Mm-hmm.
Big, strong guy, more agile than you would think. When you see his kind of build, because you just see in the picture right there, like a big meatball kind of guy. And this in 2023, I think physically he kind of took a step back because he got too big.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of young guys, they're like, I don't want to get my NFL body. It wasn't sloppy weight. He just got way too big in the upper body. Like he added too much mass. And
like somebody else we know.
Exactly. And I mentioned that to one of our good friends, Michael Crawford, a couple months ago. When I first watched BB in 2023, I was like, "Whoa, what did he do? Why is he all like buffed up and barely move?" But I know he's been working with Duke Manyweather, and he already lost like 20 pounds. and he's looking slim and trim, and I think he's at 325 right now. They said so
because he definitely looks more than 325 in this picture.
Yeah, so I like to see that. And the fact that he actually put on that kind of mass shows that he has some kind of work ethic to him, and then the fact that he took that weight off and took the good advice of Duke Manyweather to shed all of that that weight that he didn't need, that muscle mass that he needed, that he had up top. I think that's a great move for him because he's already a powerful guy. You don't have to be big and bulky. Just because you have more muscle doesn't mean that you have functional strength on the field. So I'm glad that he took that off and kind of freed himself up to be able to move a little bit better.
What I like about him in the lit tape that I did find, his movement. And that's one of the things I'm big on with this group of O linemen. How well do they move? And with him being the size that I saw him listed as, I didn't expect to see him move as well as I saw him move. He when he pulled out, whether it be from guard, and he did play multiple positions. We did mention that. That's a key to, because we mentioned we talked about it outside of the stream. He has position flexibility with Cooper. Played some tackle, wasn't as good at tackle, but he was really, really good at guard. He has position flexibility. So I like the way he's able to move from playing guard when he's pulling and getting out in space, and he's able to do what he needs to do versus smaller guys. Go ahead.
Yep, and I agree. He's better at guard than he was at tackle, but even at tackle, he was still first team All Big Ten in 2021 at left tackle. So he's a guy that you put him somewhere and he's just gonna dogfight the whole game. Right. Even if he's physically outmatched, the guy has athleticism on him. He's just gonna be one of those dudes who he's just gonna battle all game long. And the Ravens love those captains, and he's a 2-time captain at Kansas State. So. I think he's a guy that
Big 10 or Big 12.
I
think they Big 12.
Big 12, my bad, Big 12.
Because if he was Big 10, I was gonna say that's gonna vote him a lot higher in my standards because Michigan, Ohio State, and all them cats in Big 10. But that's no knock on him. I just when you said Big 10, I was thinking, well, hold on, that puts him above some of the other guys, because Michigan got 900 people going to the combine, and you got the Ohio State people, the Penn State people. But big, I just
Michigan, they keep that Joe Moore award.
Right. always. So for me, I know he'd probably be gone when 30 comes, but I would take a guy like Cooper Bebe and put him on our team. But like Malik said it earlier, I think he's a gap O lineman. What do you think about that? I think he's a gap scheme O lineman. I think he can do some zone stuff, but I think he's a gap guy.
I think so. I think if this was the Roman scheme, I think he'd be perfect, a perfect fit. But with Monken, we see that. Well, we haven't seen it yet, but we can project that they want to have more athletic offensive linemen. But I think he's going to be a guy that I think he'll be around like in the late second, even maybe early third, just because of how many talented guys there are as far as offensive tackle, and then you even got some centers too. So I think he's a guy that could be pushed down because of those dudes.
So for projection, if we went with a tackle or so first round, and he's sitting on the board second or maybe even third round pick, would you jump all over him?
And third round pick is a no brainer. Like I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Especially with our guard situation.
Exactly. Second round pick, it would depend who else is on the board. But it wouldn't be a bad pick in my opinion.
Gotcha. And especially with that flexibility, because we talked about, throwing him at guard, and if something happened to a tackle, he could push out and give you some snaps out there to help out until the tackle situation was rectified or made better or whatever they decide to do. Right. So Cooper, that's Cooper Bebe. Next guy on the list, Tallahassee, how you say it?
Fuaga
from Oregon State. Now, this is the guy that this is probably the most recent guy I watched. Now, for his size, he moves extremely well. What I like about him is his tape versus Oregon. Oregon had all these different guys that they rotate in and out, and he didn't. He lost some reps, and obviously, when you play a team that good, you're gonna lose some reps. But for the most part, he won a lot more than he lost. And he moves a lot well versus all that stunting and twisting that Oregon tried to do. He did a good job of just not selling out not selling out. Selling out is not the word I want to use. Not just falling in love with the
eye candy.
with the eye candy. Exactly. There you go. With the eye candy and staying eye discipline and coming off those stunts and having good enough feet to get back to the twisting guy. So I love and with that size and that arm length, he was engulfing guys too. So he got good enough feet to work in space. And so anybody that can work in space, I got a soft spot in my heart for this year because I know what we're trying to do as an offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, you look at him and you're like, all right, it's going to be one of these big, lumbering guys. But no, he can move. And I think, I mean, he's never done it, but just looking at his build and his, athleticism, he's a guy that you might be able to move to left tackle if you have the right coaches, because just physically he has the skill set to play that. And I was surprised that in high school he didn't play tackle. He mostly played offensive guard in high school. So he's still like learning the tricks of the trade when it comes to playing that tackle position. And if he's like this right now at this point, imagine getting NFL coaching and just getting even stronger than he already is. And he's to me, he's not the most powerful. There's another guy that we're going to talk about that I think is the most powerful, but this guy is second on that list. Because he has strength like a bear.
Now I forgot to mention his size: 6'6", 319. No, not 6'6", 334. And this picture don't do it justice. He is huge. When I tell you people disappear, like when they go head up with him and they're shoulder to shoulders with him, if the end zone angle is just right, you don't see them. They disappear in his frame, which is crazy. And like you said when you first started, normally guys that big, they lumber. They it's like running for them is hard, not for him.
No. You could tell he grew up. You could tell he grew up playing a different sport, like whether it was rugby or something. You could tell he didn't grow up playing football, because with feet like that, that's not playing all O-line your whole life.
It's crazy how when you go through these offensive linemen, it's crazy how many what's the proper term for these guys? Pacific Islanders that's in these groups, like, because you'll see by the names, it's so many of them. They're big, they're tall, they're thick, no homo. Their frame are fit for old linemen, but they have the athleticism to go with it, and that comes from a lot of them playing rugby, growing up, and they have that athleticism to go along with the size, and that you don't get in a lot of like U.S. kids these days. You either get a big guy that can't move, or you get a smaller guy that can move and don't have the size and strength. You rarely get all of it in the same package, and you're starting to get it out of these. What is the proper term? I don't want to keep saying Pacific Islanders.
I think that's what it is. I think
that's what it is.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm trying to be correct.
They all related to the Rock somehow.
Yeah.
But at that point that you said, there's another player on this list who's American born, whose pops did something to kind of counteract that, the way that U.S. players are brought up, U.S. football players. But I'll bring them back up when we get to him.
Okay, let's go to our third guy. Third guy is J.C. Latham, if I'm not mistaken. J.C. Latham, guy from Alabama, 6'6", 335. So similar height and similar weight, but different body style. He's thicker. When you look at tape, he has a better lower. The guy we just talked about is longer. This guy is they're the same height, but his thighs are massive. His arms are massive. He just looks smaller and looks stronger. But what I think about him is, I think he has a lot more football to learn. He has a good base when he in his kick slides, but he really has an issue with his hands as far as the hand fighting. But when he does get his hands on you, you can cancel Christmas.
Game over.
You can cancel, like, getting his hands on you is an issue for Latham to me. But once he gets his hands on you, there is no. And I was watching something earlier, and I hate to see prospects before I do something on it, but I was watching Vosh Lombardi, and he just happened to be talking about Latham, and he said something that stood out to me earlier. The defensive end from Ohio State, number 44. He was whooping up on two guys that we're gonna talk about here later. But when they got to this cat, who only I'm getting ahead of myself. Not him, not JC Late, not Latham.
I know you're talking
somebody
about
else. Somebody else. And we're gonna talk about later. My bad. I'm getting ahead of myself. But go ahead on Latham.
Yeah, so when we were talking about Fuaga, I said he was the second most powerful. This is my number one most powerful guy right here because, like you said, once he gets his hands on you, it is over. And he's a guy that he grew up playing left tackle. You know, he went to IMG Academy, played left tackle there, came into Bama as a left tackle. You know, they needed help on the offensive line. He jumped in at right tackle, and you know, Nick Saban was like, we're going to keep him there, you know, for O-line continuity, not because he can't play left tackle. So this is a guy who, you know, you could possibly get maybe in 20s, maybe the teens, who can be your starting left tackle.
Right.
I think he has the athleticism. I don't think he's as nimble as some of the other natural left tackles, but I think he could survive out there.
Right. And even if he has to sit at the very start, I think he has the groundwork to be a long-term tackle.
Yeah. Yep. And like you said, he just needs to learn the tricks of the trade. Because physically everything is there. Physically. And you know, he has the reputation that he has about his work ethic. They say he gained 25 pounds of muscles over the offseason last year because he was like, I need to get my NFL body and I need to do it now. And I remember watching an interview with Nick Saban, and he was like, this dude came in tremendous shape. Like, you know, and that goes in part of what you're trying to look at when you watching these players and trying to project, like, what kind of work ethic do these guys have? It's not just on the field, it's what they do when they're off the field too.
Especially these big guys, because they don't have to go to class. They're not gonna have somebody on top of them all the time, and they got to control that eating. They don't want to be one of them Zion Williams situations and have this New Orleans. We talking about draft, so I'm finna get off subject. I was finna get off subject. Any closing thoughts before we move on from Latham?
Because there's some talk that he might drop. He's one of those ones that if he drops, I would like to see maybe the Ravens maybe sniff around on the trade up for, because I think he could be that dude.
Yeah. And there you go. You can have flexibility with that too. Even though he's a left tackle, if Ronnie and Morgan Moses is still there, there's your guard until you decide to move on from Ronnie. Because correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Ronnie start off at guard?
No, not Ronnie. That was J.O.
Oh, J.O. started off. Okay. And J.O.'s one of the best tackles that ever played the game.
Yeah.
So you could have the same trajectory, you know, if Latham slipped. If he slipped enough for us to trade up and go get it. So yeah, don't count it out. Don't count it out. Next up, Joe Alt from Notre Dame. 6'8", 322. Now, this guy is supposed to be one of the 2 or 3 best lineman prospects in the draft this year. This is where I start to differ a little bit, because all traditional O-line merits Joe Alt has. Like, anytime you're looking at traditional O-line stuff, he has the size, he has the strength, the length, kick slide, all that stuff is beautiful. But what stands out to me that I don't like, and you called this word earlier, he's a lumberer. I don't want a lumbering O-line, a lumberer as an O-lineman on my team, especially if I'm transitioning to outside zone, inside zone type stuff. If it was Greg Roman's type stuff, bam, Joe Alt is the kind of guy I need. But if we go into outside zone, inside zone type stuff, for me personally, this is just me talking, me. This is my 2 cents. Joe Alt wouldn't fit what I do. But if you the Chargers, and you know they finna try to bring that Michigan stuff to the Chargers, Joe Alt might be perfect for what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I liked him more than I thought I would. Because when you watch him, his stance is so high, like he looks stiff. but he moves better than I thought, because I was like, man, if this dude, if he can't get his ass down in a stance, how's he going to move?
Right.
But I thought he moved fairly well for what I thought it was going to be. And
it seems like he moved after, it seems like he gets lower once the ball snapped to me,
right, yeah,
which is
it's
weird.
it's like he's on the twerk team before the ball is snap.
Because it's almost like the snap, he's almost like standing up.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the ball snap, he realizes that he knows I'm 6'8". Ain't too many defensive players gonna be tall enough for me to get my pad level lower than them. So I gotta go ahead and get down.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's saving his knees until after the snap.
Yep. And this is the guy that I told you about, that his dad did something when he was younger that not a lot of parents do. You know, you have a big kid, all right, yeah, they're gonna play the O-line. But his dad, he had the luxury of having a dad who was a former first-round pick for the Chiefs, an offensive lineman. And he was like, I'm keeping my son at tight end as long as I can. So he had him play tight end to not, you know, be that stuck in the mud kind of offensive tackle, because he knew the progression that it was going to be.
Right.
You know, he's like, I'm big as hell. I know he's going to be big as hell.
So did he come to Notre Dame as a tight end?
No, he didn't come to Notre Dame as a tight end. But growing up, he kept him there, I think, till like his sophomore year or something like that. He played tight end, and then, you know, they knew that transition was going to come eventually. So he ended up moving to offensive tackle. But that's one of those things that you spoke about earlier, where, you know, the Polynesian players, they play.
That's the word I was looking for, Chris. Now you say it. You kept it for yourself.
You didn't say. I thought you said. Oh no,
I said Pacific Islanders. Polynesian is the word. Was the word.
There we go. Hey man, that public school, baby. But yeah, I like Joe Alt. I didn't think I was gonna like him as much, but I thought he was a good player.
Yeah, I can see the tight end background with the way he moves when he's trying to get the second level. Now, he don't always get the second level, especially if the linebacker gets a kind of jump on him. But I can see the way he maneuvers with his shoulders to get between guys and trying to work up the second level. I can see where he wasn't always a lineman. I can see the movement in him, especially being that big. I see it. And even looking at this picture right here, he got a little rubber around his belly, but he ain't fat.
Right.
Like if he was standing straight up, you wouldn't even see that Michelin around him. He'd be a nice looking fella. You wouldn't even see that girth right there. That 6'8". That 6'8" is crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, one of my personal favorites was Jordan Morgan. Is that right? Yeah, Jordan Morgan from Arizona, from Arizona. 6'6", 320. Now Arizona, he's a senior. So with Jordan, what I would say is, what caught my attention first was him walking around on his tiptoes. And normally the badass kids in the neighborhood walk around on their tiptoes. Normally. the ones always running around doing something they ain't got no business, they normally walk around on their tiptoes. And when I saw him doing that, the athleticism lets me know he was the badass kid in the neighborhood that walk around his tiptoes, messing stuff up. And so again, he's one of the guys, Polynesian. I think he's Polynesian. I think, but one of the kids that can move well in space. He can be an outside zone, inside zone guy, as well as he could play in a power system. And that's what I like about him. From looking at the couple games I saw on him, I feel like he can play in either scheme. He wouldn't be pigeonholed to a power scheme or a zone scheme. I just like the fact that he's versatile. He's a senior. I really like that he's played a lot of football. His PFF grades are good, and me and you both know how I feel about PFF. But for him to have over 80 grades for the past 2 years playing in the Pac-12 that's good to me. That's good to me. And I just like what I saw of him in general, especially go with that size.
Yeah, and he's a guy, he probably would have got drafted last year, but he tore his ACL in November of 2022. So, you know, not only was he coming back off that injury, I mean, he was playing not even a full year removed. Right. So for him to have put up the tape that he did in 2023, not even a full year removed from ACL surgery, I think that's, you know, tremendous props to him and his work ethic and, you know, just being able to bounce back And he's another guy that two-time captain. Everything that the Ravens like. Big, strong guy. I know a lot of people want to project him to guard because he has the shorter arms. I think he had like 32-inch arms, I think, and some change at the Senior Bowl. But I mean, to me, when it comes to arm length, I didn't really see arm length issues with him. It's not like he was perfect, but I wasn't like, oh damn, like I see him getting beat all the time because of his arm length. It was more like to me, he's a linear athlete, and he has trouble redirecting his weight and recovering off of. So he'll stop an initial pass rush, but then that counter, he kind of has difficulty, recovering from that. And that's what I saw the most issue with him. But as far as arm length, like I'm not tripping on it when it comes to him. I think he could play tackle. I think he could play guard. He has some of that nastiness in the run game too when you see him. So to me, he's probably one of the first like realistic guys from the dudes that we've spoken about who could possibly be there at 30, in my opinion.
Right. And as far as you were speaking about, as far as him coming back from the injury, 670 snaps in 2022. Remember, he tore his ACL in November. Came back and played almost 800 this year, which is crazy.
And at a high level.
It's crazy. Like you said, two-time captain, worker. That's the kind of guy that's, what do we call him, a lunch pail guy?
Yeah.
He's going to go in there and give you what he got, and you know what you're going to get from him. Yeah. So that's one of the guys at the Ravens. He's a Ravens type guy. Not saying they're going to get him, but that's the kind of guy they look for.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, this is the guy I was mentioning earlier. I'll let you go first with my man Mims here, because he was mocked to us by Daniel Jeremiah, if I'm not mistaken. Marius Mims from Georgia, 6'7", 340 pounds.
This is the dude that I struggle with. I don't like him. I don't hate him. I mean, I don't love him. I don't hate him. I'm just kind of like middle of the road with him. Like he's a guy that has like about. I mean, you just said the snaps for Jordan Morgan.
Okay, let me tell you. I'm glad you said that. Let me tell you his snaps for Mims. 2021, 121. The season before last, 2022, 385. Last year, 297.
Right.
Where as opposed to Morgan, what I said, almost 800 last year.
Yeah, that's for this year. So he did that. He did what Mims did his whole career in one season, coming off of an ACL.
Right.
But I mean that's you got to go through it with a fine-tooth comb with this one. And you see some of the flashes, you see things that get you excited, and you're like, ooh, okay. But then there's other things where you're like, and it's like, is it gonna get there? You taking a gamble. Exactly. This is a guy who he clearly has top 10 physical talent, physical traits. But
that's 6'7", 340 you're looking at, and it looks good in this picture.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that. It's like almost Tyron Smith-ish when it comes to just physical look and coming off the bus. Like, but he's a guy that I struggle with, and he's another one who played left tackle too. And you look at his feet and some of the athletic traits that he has, and you could easily see somebody draft him and move him to the left side too, not just be on the right side.
So let me tell you the bad that I saw about him. The bad that I saw with him in the plays that I could find, where he would overextend himself and easily get the pull through. Where the defender just pull him in and go. So I saw that multiple occasions. But then the good is the story I was telling earlier when I was thinking about the wrong dude was he wasn't playing a lot. They took him and played him versus Ohio State, and he stonewalls the dude that was whooping everybody. The kid from Ohio State, like the dude, he would go up against him and he couldn't move Mims. He would try moves, and Mims would be sitting there like this. Nope, that ain't work. Try it again for almost the whole game. So, like you said, with Mims, he ain't played. He barely played 700 snaps in 3 years at Georgia. And then you look at Morgan, he played 800 this year coming off of ACL. Look at Latham at Alabama, played 874 this year and 875 the year before that. We're going to talk about somebody else that's on my list below that played almost 1,000 this year. It's a huge crap. Now, his body, it's potential. It's potential.
Through the roof.
Right. Now, so if you pick him, do you trust Joe D enough to develop him?
Yep. And somebody in the chat is asking, why didn't he play? So last year, Georgia, they were just kind of flip-flopping when it came to, like, they were having their rotation, kind of like the Ravens did this year. They were having a rotation because he's young. He was a true sophomore last year.
Yep.
So, and then this year, he was supposed to be that guy. Ended up having an ankle situation where he got surgery and came back at the end of the year. And I think in the Oregon game, I think he got hurt in the first quarter.
Yep.
So it just injuries and just being young, and that's why he doesn't have that many snaps under his belt.
I just found out something that was funny. So let me go back and give you guys a little backstory. Joe Alt is not 21 yet. The 6'8" guy we just talked about, he's not 21 yet. Latham is 21. Mims is just turned 21. Let's see who else we talked about. Morgan is 22 and a half. And I think that's all we've talked about so far. Cooper's not on here. Maybe because he's a guard. They got him listed as a guard. Let me find Cooper real quick. 1 second. Tell you how old Cooper is. Cooper is, where's Cooper? I don't know why Cooper ain't on this thing. Oh, there he is. Cooper 22. Is 22, almost 23. So, but the funny thing is, what made me laugh is Tallahassee. They got everybody's age on here, but his. So where that birth certificate
at? Hey. Remember Danny Almonte back in the day? He might be 28.
Then Almonte was throwing gas to them 12-year-olds, and he was about 17. But yeah, this is the guy that Daniel Jeremiah mocked to us, and I think people say Daniel Jeremiah has mocked the right person to us a couple times. So this is the guy that he's mocked. So go find your tape, make your own decisions, chat box of what you think about him. I'm skeptical because he hadn't played a lot, but his good is really good. His bad is really bad. It's just not a lot of gray area in there, but he is young. So, yeah, that's why we're here to kind of throw the names out there and let you and give you what we think about them. So now you got an opportunity to see who the people are talking about and go from there.
Yep.
So we keep this train rolling. Olu for Fanu. I definitely ain't saying his whole first name. Olu Fanu, 21 years old, 6'6", 319 for Penn State. What some people say is the best number one O-lineman, some people. Chris, you can start with Olu.
To me, this dude, he's Ronnie 2.0. And, I know Ronnie now, you say Ronnie now, people are like, oh, Lord. I'm talking about Ronnie, Notre Dame Ronnie. Right? If you remember Notre Dame Ronnie, he was a finesse guy. A guy who people question like, oh, this basketball player playing football, and you kind of see that in Olu's game too. Olu is more of a finesse guy. He wants to get, he's not going to maul you to death, but he's going to get his hands on you and rely on quickness rather than brute strength. A lot of people's number one. I didn't have him as a number one, but I like him. I just think, when you have to be the number one offensive tackle, you got to have more sand in your pants when you're going up against power rushers. In the NFL, everybody's strong.
Right.
Everybody's strong. And if they can, we saw it this year with Ronnie now with his injury. If they can exploit that and put you on skates, they're going to do that every single time. Yep. And that is his biggest knock right now is just not being able to set that anchor down. Can he get better at it? Of course. You look at his frame, he still can add, at least 20 pounds to his frame.
Right.
He's still a young guy, like Coach said a little earlier. But, the physical traits, the physical tools are there. I just want to see him be able to, get that anchor down and just be able to set down on those, bull rushes and those power rushes.
I could easily see him at 340. He's 319 now. I can see him at 340 and keeping some of those same traits he got. My only knock on him is I don't think he can help you in like screen games. He's a lumberer. He works well in the tackle box as far as his side to side agility and getting to the second level, but he ain't gonna help you in the screen game because it's like his whole foot has to hit the ground when he runs. And I ain't seen but one person be fast when their whole foot hit the ground. And my wife says that's a son that's not my son that I always reference from back home. And this kid ran a 4.3 with his whole foot hitting the ground. I still ain't figured out how he did it. But that's like when it's like he Paul Bunyan when he runs. Like he running on his heels. But inside the tackle box, he good. So that's my only knock on him is I don't think he can help you. Like if you were trying to get outside and do stuff in the screen game or run like outside zone and stuff like that, I don't think he can help you there. Now, if he get hooks on those guys, yes.
Yeah.
But as far as if the defensive end fighting you, I don't think he can help you out there. But I like him. I do think he's one of the top prospects, and he works well inside the box. He pulls pretty well. And once he gets his hands on you, for the most part, I'm gonna take that back. Because if you strong as a bull, you can get your hands off of him. If you got some if you're an older defensive end, a seasoned defensive end, you can get rid of Fashanu.
Yeah,
because he ain't got his NFL body yet.
Because he's trying to mirror. That's what he's trying to do.
Yep.
He's not trying to strike first and hold you there.
Right.
He's just trying to mirror. And that obviously that has its place in the NFL too. But to be OT1, you got to have that overall package and that overall game.
Then that's why I'm glad you said that. He's trying to mirror and strike if he have to. JC Latham is going to strike you and you ain't going no damn well.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because once he put those paws on you,
they own you.
That's it.
They own you. So it's just it's different with O linemen. It's like it's whatever flavor you like. That's what you go get.
Yep.
All right. Next up, one of my favorites. This is one of my favorites right here. This is Troy Fanu from Washington, left tackle that can play guard. He's 23, 6'4", 317. I'll let you start with Troy because this is my dude right here.
Yeah, you and me both. This is my dream pick right here for 30. You look at Mox and he's going in the 20s. Man, I hope he smoked some weed before the draft or something so he could get to 30 because this dude, he's it for me. It looks like the Ravens are going to keep Ronnie. This dude slide right in and be the left guard, and I think he'll damn near be a Pro Bowler sooner rather than later. This dude, you mentioned it with Fashanu about being in space and not being able to hit anybody. Fanu, he's one of the best offensive linemen I've seen in space.
Yes.
You see big offensive linemen in space, and you can see, cornerbacks, they just olay them and go right under them or whatever, or just give them a little juke move, and the offensive tackle just goes flying into the dirt. Olu, he's like a heat-seeking missile. Like, you're not going to juke him. You're not going to do any of that. He in space, he will get his hands on those little dudes and move them out the way violently. And it's not just the little dudes. Like it doesn't always look pretty with him, but he gets the job done.
What? Now I've seen him get out there and literally square those little guys up. Because what the little guys try to do is just pick one side and beat you to it. I've seen him get out there and square them guys up where, okay, now son gun, you ain't got nowhere to go. It's me and you. You're gonna take this.
Yep.
and they just lay it on the ground and go and take it.
And with him, I saw a progression with him because I watched his 2022 tape. I hated him. Like, I was like, ugh, who the hell is it? Pull your shirt down. Who is this? But then I watched him in 23, and I'm like, oh, okay, you keep that shirt up if you want. Because the jump and the progression that I saw, because it was, you could tell it was kind of a new position for him at left tackle. And he was kind of jittery and just happy feet. And you see him a little bit calmer here. And one of my favorite things from him is his hand usage. It's
Yes.
so quick. It's Neo in the Matrix when the agents are trying to fight him and he's just doing it with one hand. That's Fanu right there.
He will
His
100
hands are
hand slap you in a minute.
beautiful, beautiful handwork, and it's always like he has perfect timing because you can have good hand usage, but when you got the timing with it and the violence, I know you've seen it. He puts dudes in the dirt just from his hand usage and getting them off balance.
And we haven't even talked about his feet yet. Well, his feet inside, like in the box, not out in space. Like his kick sides, his side to side. We ain't even because he can actually, like we talked about with not with Olu mirroring. He can mirror and punch.
Right.
So to me, I know a lot of people don't like him. Like a lot of experts don't like him because of size, and other people got more measurables and whatnot. But his tape to me stands out way more than anybody we've talked about so far. To me, out of the guys we've mentioned so far, the only person's tape that comes close to him is Cooper. To me,
with him, like he looks like a guard, so he's the height of a guard, the weight of a guard. But according to Dane Brugler, who's one of the top insiders, he has 34.5-inch arms, so that's more than enough to play tackle. So when it comes to all of that, he's a guard. Yeah, he can play guard. He'll probably be a damn good guard, but I think he can play left tackle as well.
And so to me, this is my guy right here. Like if he down 30, I'm gonna be banging the walls. Hey, EDC, get him.
Yeah, for sure.
Now I don't know if he's gonna hit me, but
and if not, we're gonna storm it like January 6th.
We loading up going to Baltimore. We're going to have big fun, but we gonna be the ratchet. I think we got two more. All right, so we're going to guard a little bit. This is Zach Zentner, guard from Michigan. Now we are with Zentner. He is Michigan tried and true. If you were running Greg Roman's style of football, this is your guy. He's a power puller. He's a down kick out guy. So if you're running counter, you're running power. He's a down blocker. He's a pull and kick out guy. He ain't necessarily a pull and wrap guy, but he's an old school lineman. He's a trap lineman. He's all those gap plays that they ran back when I was a wing back. This is the type of guy you need, and that's what he is. So he would fit those teams. He fit Roman. He fit the Chargers. All those teams that are getting away from, not getting away from, but just not running zone, still trying to be traditional-ish in football, and that still works if you got the lineman to do it. This is the guy for you. He's a lumberer, so don't expect him to do a lot in space. Strong as an ox. Like when I tell you can probably pick up a redwood and put on his back, that's this dude. And if when he helps out, like so when they in pass pro and he don't have anybody to block and he goes to help either the guard or the center, whoever he helps, that defender normally goes flying. That's how strong he is as far as when he goes to help. And when he gets one-on-ones, if they don't get him with quickness, because you can get him with quickness, but if they don't get him with quickness and he actually gets his hands under the breastplate and puts them on you, you're probably gonna be putting them little pellets out of your mouth because he's that strong.
Yeah, he's a guy. I saw him in the first round mock earlier in the year, and I was like, "Oh, let me check this dude out." Anytime you see a Michigan offensive lineman, you got to check him out because like we said earlier, the Joe Moore Award lives there, and I didn't come away blown away by his tape when I watched it. I didn't think he was a first round caliber guard, but a nice player. I thought he's a guy who very smart. 6'5", and he does play that high, in my opinion. He's a guy he could get knocked back because of that leverage that he doesn't always, when he doesn't keep his pad level low. But I thought he was an intelligent player. I thought he used his mobility well, and just understands angles. I like offensive linemen who understand angles. He just had to be more consistent at it because like I said, there will be times where he'll just be upright and just get knocked back. But he's a guy who suffered an injury too, a bad one. Broke some crap in his leg. I don't even know what it was, but I think they say he's going to be ready by training camp to go. But yeah, he's a guy probably, as far as the players that we've talked about so far, he's probably the lowest one on my list.
All right. Now I know there's a name that you mentioned yesterday that I do plan on looking at, but I want you to go ahead and speak on it. And it is the guy from Duke. I'm trying to find his name.
Oh, Grant Barton.
Yes, him. What have you seen so far from Barton that you like? And this Barton will be the last one we talk about today. That'll put us at an even 10. And that when we come back again, we'll have 10 more guys to talk about.
Grant Barton, man, I love this dude. Go ahead and watch him versus Jared Verse, and he was battling his ass off.
Versus the defensive tackle from Florida State.
Yeah. And they went toe to toe, and Graham, he's 6'5", 315. For whatever reason, he played center when he was like a freshman or a sophomore at Duke, and for whatever reason, people just want to lump him in there and put him at center. I think he can play left tackle. I think he could play guard. To me, he's one of those guys that you draft him and you say, all right, prove to me that you can't play left tackle. To me, he's not a guy that just, all right, you go inside. He reminded me a lot of Patrick McCarry in that regard. But just, Patrick McCarry is not as big as him, but the way that, because I remember a couple years ago, remember when McCarry was playing right tackle and he was like one of the best right tackles in the league for that time that he was starting? He has like those similar traits where he doesn't have anything that's going to wow you. But as far as being technical, as far as, even when he loses slow, and that's what you want. Alejandro Villanueva, turnstile, quick. But this dude, if he's going to lose, it's going to be one of those slow burn things where he's going to batter you and batter you and batter you. And, your quarterback's going to have a chance to save himself and not just be a lame duck. But
that's what I was going to say at the end. With 8 as our quarterback, you can respect losing slow because that gives him the time to escape.
Yep. And he's a dude, I mentioned it with Zach Zenner, but this dude, Barton, he really impressed me with his ability to just understand angles and leverage when it comes to block, because he's not the most gifted athletically or physically, but understanding leverage and angles, like that's so important for an offensive lineman. And to me, when it comes to the brain, he has it.
Well, yeah, Duke, private institution.
That is true.
Private institution, and Duke is you gotta be smart to get in Duke. So that kind of comes with the territory. And offensive linemen are normally your smarter players anyway, but to add that on top of playing at Duke, so you got to kind of know a little something to be there. You got to be able to process fast. It's one thing to know something; it's another thing to be able to process information fast.
Right.
That's what them O-linemen they have to do. They have to do that.
Yep.
So that's our 10 for today. Are these the 10 best guys? We not really saying that. We're just giving you 10 guys that we're going to talk about. And we're going to double back and talk about some more guys, whether it be O-linemen, running back, receivers, or whatever, here in the near future. Once we'll work that out amongst ourselves. And then as soon as we do that, we'll let you guys know. But this was fun for me. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, man. Always fun. Besides the NBA, this is what I love talking about.
Well, I'm gonna see if I can get you to talk more draft and less ugly ass Derek White. Especially since he done cut his hair. We ain't brought him up on the show yet, but we're gonna have to put a picture up there soon, with him cutting his hair. So man. I appreciate everybody that came out. If you haven't liked the video, please go ahead and do so before you get up out of here. And if you really enjoyed this content, share it. That's how you make the channel grow. That's how you help get this content out to people that normally may not see it, and get it to people that, because I think we have a general idea of what we're talking about. There's some people that just be spewing nonsense, but if you really rock with us like we think y'all do, share it on your socials, man. If you and Reddit and all that stuff too, share it out there too. So I appreciate you guys for coming out, and we'll be back soon with another set of offensive linemen or some O-line prospect, but we'll try to make this I ain't gonna say weekly yet. Me and him gonna talk about it off screen, and we'll let y'all know as soon as we figure something out. But I appreciate y'all, man. And again, whenever DCP drops something, that's Deep Cover Podcast, make sure y'all check that out. Chris will let y'all know when he find out. And we always support each other. So catch us on Mondays on the roundup. And that's all I got for you, man. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Peace and love. Thank you again, Chris.
Peace. Thank you.
Oh, and one last thing. This will be available for podcast version later on, so I'll download it and put it on the podcast version for you audio listeners tomorrow, so you can have you something to listen to at work. Now we gone.